Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Omitra Bekhun. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Sri Lanka Cricket Reform Committee appointed. Iran Wickremesinghe named chairman. Roshan Mahanama, Siddharth Vettimuni and Kumar Sangakkara among 8 members. Court says evidence sufficient to indict Ranil Wickremesinghe. Fort Magistrate directs Attorney General to file High Court charges. Bribery Commission questions explanation on Rajapaksa assets. Investigation set to proceed over Mahinda and Shiranti Rajapaksa's declarations. Were DNA reports fabricated under pressure in the Easter Sunday case? Serious revelations emerge from CID investigation. Buddhist monks conclude walk for peace in the island of peace and depart Sri Lanka.
Taking a look at those stories in detail now. Iran Wickremesinghe was appointed today as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Cricket Reforms Committee. A former First 11 cricketer of Tamil Union, Iran Wickremesinghe is a postgraduate in economics. Alongside his appointment, 8 other members of the Sri Lanka Cricket Reforms Committee were also formally appointed today.
Iran Wickremesinghe officially received his letter of appointment as chairman of the Sri Lanka Cricket Reforms Committee this afternoon from Minister of Sports Sunil Kumar Gamage. An alumnus of Royal College Colombo, Iran Wickremesinghe represented the school's first 11 cricket team during his school years. Based on his performances at school level, he later earned selection to the Sri Lanka school's cricket team. Owing to his success as a batsman during his schooling career, Iran Wickremesinghe gained the opportunity in 1977 to play as an opening batsman for the Tamil Union cricket team. While pursuing his higher education in England, he also represented teams in the Kent Amateur League cricket tournament. Beyond cricket, Iran Wickremesinghe is a highly respected figure in the banking sector. He played a leading role in formulating the structure, framework and establishment strategy of the National Development Bank or NDB and served as its founding chief executive officer. He later held key roles as a director and Group Chief Executive Officer of NDB Bank, making a significant contribution to the institution's growth. Iran Wickremesinghe has also served as the founding chairman of the Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka, or ICTA, and previously worked as an advisor to the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka. Coinciding with his appointment as chairman, 8 other members were also named to the Sri Lanka Cricket Reforms Committee today. The committee includes former Test cricketers Siddharth Vettimuni, Roshan Mahanama and Kumar Sangakkara. In addition, Prakash Shafter, Dinal Phillips, Avanti Kulambage, President's Counsel Upul Kumara Peruma and Tushira Radalla have also been appointed as committee members. Earlier today, Sri Lanka Cricket President Shammi Silva and the entire executive committee formally informed President Anurukumara Dissanayake and Minister of Sports Sunil Kumar Gamage of their decision to resign from their respective positions. Following the acceptance of these resignation letters by the Sports Minister, the chairman and members of the new Sri Lanka Cricket Reforms Committee were appointed. In recent times, there has been strong public demand for a change in cricket administration amid concerns that Sri Lanka cricket had repeatedly moved away from the success the nation expects. One of the primary indicators highlighted regarding administrative inefficiency has been Sri Lanka's failure over the past decade to reach even a semi-final of any ICC-organized tournament. During this period, Sri Lanka cricket was reduced to participating in qualification tournaments for major international events. Serious allegations of corruption and irregularities raised against Sri Lanka cricket at the parliamentary COP have further intensified scrutiny. In Test, One-Day International and T20 rankings alike, Sri Lanka has failed to break into the top 3 teams, marking a significant decline in performance. Repeated defeats, even against teams such as Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Zimbabwe, strengthened public calls for an urgent handover of Sri Lanka cricket to an efficient and accountable administration.
Newsfirst with the people.
The Fourth Magistrates Court today informed the Attorney General to proceed without delay in filing indictments in the High Court against former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, citing sufficient evidence in connection with allegations of using public funds amounting to 16.6 million rupees for a private foreign trip. The directive was issued when the case was taken up again before court today. The case filed against former President Ranil Wickremesinghe and former Presidential Secretary Saman Ekanaika over allegations of using 16.6 million rupees in public funds for a private overseas visit was taken up before Fourth Magistrate Isuru Nethikumara. It was informed to court by President Counsel Tilak Marapana, appearing for Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is currently out on bail, that his client was unable to appear in court today due to ill health. During proceedings, the Criminal Investigation Department revealed several new and significant findings arising from its investigations. The CID also reported to court statements made by Maitri Wickremesinghe, the wife of Ranil Wickremesinghe, as well as responses received via email from the University of Wolverhampton regarding matters relevant to the case. According to the University of Wolverhampton, Ranil Wickremesinghe's visit was related to attending the conferment of an honorary professorship on Maitri Wickremesinghe on the 22nd of September 2022 and a luncheon held in connection with the event. The CID informed court that there was no involvement whatsoever by the UK government in this visit, that a letter dated for the 1st of September 2023 had been received as an invitation, and that there was no revelation to indicate the invitation had been conveyed through the London High Commission via diplomatic channels. A statement made by Maitri Wickremesinghe further revealed that no diplomatic or official meetings took place during the visit to the United Kingdom on the 22nd of September and the 23rd of September 2023. Excerpt.
Maitri Wickremesinghe received the invitation to attend the graduation ceremony from the University of Wolverhampton on the 15th of July 2023. While she was considering how to attend the event, her husband, the first suspect, received a travel itinerary to Cuba and the United States. During that trip, she states that she was able to attend the graduation ceremony as a transit stop. This is the first time this 15th July letter has been disclosed. Previously, this letter had never come to light. The issue here is that the graduation date coincides exactly with the dates of the first suspect's US and Cuba visit. There is suspicion of a conspiratorial transaction between the two sides. Moreover, who prepares an agenda just for a transit? This was not accidental. It was a carefully planned journey.
End of excerpt. The Additional Solicitor General further told court that the positions taken by Ranil Wickremesinghe and his wife regarding this incident were contradictory. Excerpt.
There were no diplomatic engagements during these 2 days. This is now a serious case of misuse of public funds under the Public Property Act. The first suspect claims this was an official visit based on a formal invitation received through the British High Commission. However, his wife states she attended the graduation ceremony as a transit event during her husband's US and Cuba tour. Her statement was recorded on the 24th. Investigators are still studying that statement. Legally, Maitri Wickremesinghe cannot be made a witness as she is the wife of the first suspect. A decision on whether she will be named as a suspect has not yet been taken and will be determined after a full study of her statement.
End of excerpt. President's counsel Tilak Marapana, appearing for Ranil Wickremesinghe, argued that his client bore no responsibility for the expenses incurred during the trip. He further claimed that the expenses were excessively inflated and alleged that several parties had benefited unlawfully. Excerpt.
They say 16 million rupees were spent. We too have undertaken official travel. We don't monitor who spends how much, but it must be investigated why such a sum was spent. Vehicles were allegedly provided by the British government, yet vehicle costs alone are said to be 3 million rupees. My client did not use those vehicles. The hotel mentioned was a small one, like the Renuka Hotel here. They say 2 million rupees was spent on food. No person spends 2 million rupees on food even in a month. This was theft. A company called Skywings organized the tour. Inflated figures were used to siphon money. Together with the mission, this company has committed fraud. This requires a separate investigation.
End of excerpt. Responding to this, Additional Solicitor General Dilip Aperi stated that no individual has the freedom to arbitrarily misuse public funds. Excerpt.
How can public funds be siphoned in a bankrupt country? No one is entitled to misuse public money at will. This so-called transit is an extraordinary one. There was even a banquet during this transit. They stayed at a hotel 200 kilometers away from London. 16.2 million rupees was spent in 32 hours. This was a fully pre-planned journey, Your Honour.
End of excerpt. After considering submissions, the Fourth Magistrate ruled that sufficient evidence exists and emphasized that delays in criminal investigations diminish their value. Accordingly, he ordered expeditious filing of indictments against the suspects. Excerpt.
In criminal cases, delayed investigations undermine their value. This is why courts are persistent about indictments. Based on the evidence against the first suspect, indictments can be filed. The conduct of the second suspect in approving funds also demonstrates culpable intent, allowing indictments against him as well. Either proceed with indictments without delay or release the suspects. No facts have yet emerged to show criminal intent on the part of the first suspect's wife. Investigate urgently whether any such liability may arise. How much more time do investigators need for all of this?
End of excerpt. In response, Additional Solicitor General Dilip Aperi stated that 1 month would be sufficient to complete the remaining investigations and assured court that indictments would be filed against the suspects before the next hearing. The case is scheduled to be taken up again on the 8th of July.
Information continues to emerge regarding investigations being conducted by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption into the assets of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his wife Shiranti Rajapaksa.
The Bribery Commission has stated that the affidavit submitted by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in connection with the assets investigation was found to be incomplete. The Commission said that as a result, he has been informed to submit a fully completed affidavit without delay. The Bribery Commission further warned that failure to submit a complete affidavit would be treated as non-disclosure of information and that further action would be taken accordingly. It was also revealed that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa had not submitted an affidavit in relation to an assets investigation initiated in 2015. Accordingly, the Bribery Commission issued a notice on the 23rd of March instructing him to submit an affidavit related to the assets investigation within 14 days. The directive was issued under Section 49(1)(e) of the Anti-Corruption Act No. 9 of 2023. Meanwhile, the Bribery Commission has also requested an explanation regarding the manner in which a house located on Torrington Avenue, Colombo, owned by Shiranti Rajapaksa, the wife of the former president, was acquired. This request has been made in connection with an investigation linked to the Cirilia account. There is suspicion that the relevant property may have been acquired through unlawful means. The Bribery Commission further stated that until the explanation is provided, the transfer of ownership of the house to any other party has been suspended. The Commission warned that if there is a failure to satisfactorily explain how the property was acquired, steps will be taken following a proper investigation to initiate judicial action to restrain the property through court proceedings.
Former State Intelligence Chief retired Major General Suresh Sale, who is currently being held under a detention order in connection with the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks, was presented before a judicial medical officer this morning.
Retired Major General Suresh Sale was produced before the Colombo Judicial Medical Officer under tight security provided by the Special Task Force of the police. This step was taken by the Criminal Investigations Department following a court order issued based on a request made by the attorneys at law appearing on behalf of Suresh Sale before the Fourth Magistrates Court. During ongoing court proceedings related to the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks, several serious facts uncovered by the CID have continued to emerge before the Fourth Magistrates Court. Newsfirst has over the past few days revealed a number of these serious matters. What follows is another key revelation. central question arising from the investigation is whether Pulastini, also known as Sara Jasmine, the wife of the Katua Pitya suicide bomber, died in the Saindamarudu explosion following the April 21st, 2019 attacks, or whether she went missing. From the outset of the terrorist operation, Sara Jasmine was identified as a key operative figure. Although it was previously claimed, citing DNA reports, that Sara had died, the CID has now revealed that she did not die in the explosion. According to CID findings, Pulastini, also known as Sara Jasmine, fled to India, and evidence relating to her route of travel has now been obtained as part of the investigation. This raises serious questions as to how earlier claims were made that she died in the Saindamarudu incident. DNA samples obtained from the remains of 16 individuals killed in the Saindamarudu blast failed to identify Sara Jasmine on 2 separate occasions. How then was her death confirmed during a third DNA test? Several grave facts have emerged through CID investigation reports submitted to court. The first DNA report was issued on the 19th of September 2019, which confirmed that Sara Jasmine had not died. A second report issued on the 3rd of March 2021 arrived at the same conclusion. Samples for a third DNA examination were obtained on the 27th of April 2022. Investigators have outlined how the groundwork for this third test was laid. Following Gotabaya Rajapaksa's appointment as president, Suresh Saleh, now under detention, was appointed as State Intelligence Chief. Under normal procedure, the CID is not summoned to National Security Council meetings. However, during investigations, a former CID Deputy Inspector General revealed that he was abruptly summoned to such a meeting. At that meeting, despite the CID maintaining that there was no justification for retesting DNA samples, Suresh Saleh allegedly stated that CID investigations were moving too slowly and insisted that Sara Jasmine's DNA samples be retested. CID officers reportedly informed the council that since Sara Jasmine had not been identified in 2 prior DNA tests, further testing would be futile. Judicial medical officers also indicated that there was no such requirement. Despite this, Saleh is alleged to have stated that the CID had not acted as claimed. When the then Inspector General of Police was instructed to look into the matter, the former president reportedly remarked, while looking at both Saleh and the IGP, that Saleh's statements could be interpreted as requiring action based on his wishes. Former IGP C.D. Wickremesinghe has stated that Suresh Saleh repeatedly raised the issue of a third DNA test related to Sara Jasmine during National Security Council meetings. Another former Deputy Inspector General testified that during intelligence review meetings, Saleh claimed investigations had not been properly conducted, stating that Sara Jasmine had not fled to India and had instead died at the scene. According to this testimony, Saleh alleged that a proper DNA test would confirm this claim. The Deputy Inspector General further stated that Saleh continued to demand a fresh DNA test during intelligence meetings, and when his directives were not followed, the matter was escalated to the National Security Council to obtain directions from the President. He also stated that following presidential instructions, he inspected the crime scene and made a presentation to the National Security Council. During this process, the President reportedly instructed that samples be taken from fragmented remains. The Deputy Inspector General said that the intense pressure caused severe stress, leading him to undergo heart surgery, after which he was immediately transferred to police headquarters without holding a position. A former CID inspector has also testified regarding how samples were obtained for the third DNA test in April 2022. He stated that a black polythene bag containing bone fragments were found adjacent to the grave numbered 16 of those killed in Saindamarudu. This was labelled as grave number 17 and bone fragments from it were taken for testing. An additional government analyst testified that 2 small bone fragments were identified as belonging to the daughter born to Sara Jasmine's mother. She further stated that following DNA extraction, there were no remaining fragments of those bones. The judicial medical officer present during the second exhumation stated that based on photographs, the bone fragment identified as belonging to Sara Jasmine, labelled 17D, appeared to be a lower vertebra of a human body, but no such bone was observed when the remains were originally recovered. A report related to this matter was prepared for submission to the Kalmune court on the 15th of February 2023. However, it was revealed that the Inspector General of Police personally visited the Government Analysts Department and took the report. It was also disclosed that Suresh Saleh, then State Intelligence Chief, was present at the time, and that soon after obtaining the report, it was publicized through the police media spokesperson. The CID informed court that it was highly unusual for the then IGP and the State Intelligence Chief to personally obtain a DNA report and issue an immediate media statement confirming Sarah Jasmine's death. According to the CID, this amounted to an obstruction of ongoing investigations that were proceeding on the assumption that Sarah Jasmine was alive. The CID further stated that preliminary investigations show the explosions and fires at the Saindamarudu house were not powerful enough to completely destroy a human body. Investigation reports also note that according to a statement made by Zaharan's wife, Fatima Hadia, Sarah Jasmine was inside the house following the blast. These findings continue to emerge as the case progresses before the Fourth Magistrates Court.
Police today questioned Sugishwara Bandara, the former personal secretary to ex-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, over an attempt to surround the residence of Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Harshana Surya Peruma. The questioning followed a complaint lodged by the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance.
According to reports, Sugishwara Bandara and several others arrived at the residence of Finance Ministry Secretary Harshana Surya Peruma in the Palavatta area of Battaramulla yesterday, stating that they intended to surround the house. Following the incident, area residents reportedly hurled human waste at the group. Based on a complaint received in connection with the incident, the Thalangama police have launched an investigation and recorded a statement today from the former personal secretary to ex-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
මගෙන් ප්‍රකාශයක් සඳහන් කරගත්තා පැය දෙකකට ආසන්න කාලේ මම කිව්වයි අපි හර්ෂ සූර්ය පෙරම ගෙදරට ගියයි කියලා අපි සාමකාමීව තමයි ගියේ අපි ගෙවල් වලට හානි කරන්න ගියෙත් නෑ අපි කීර්ති නාමයට හානි කරන්න ගියෙත් නෑ ඒ නිසා අද පණිවිඩය අපි කියනවා අපි මේක මෙතනින් නවත්තන්නේ නෑ අපි මේක ජිනීවත් ගෙනියනවා අපි මේක තානාපති කාර්යාලවල දැනුවත් කරනවා.
Meanwhile, Sugishwar Bandara has also lodged a complaint with the police claiming that he was assaulted by a group during the incident.
The following remarks were made by Janata Vimuktha General Secretary Tilving Silva at a media briefing held today.
They think the Malima government is just like them, a government that engages in fraud and corruption. That is why they are trying to level false allegations. On the other hand, having made fools of themselves, they are now gathering 10 or 15 people here and there and shouting, pretending to stage protests. I think they do not understand what a people's struggle is or what a protest really means. These require a foundation and a proper character. They clearly do not grasp that. Because the Gotabaya Rajapaksa government was ousted through a mass uprising, they think that anytime 5 or 6 people can launch a struggle and remove a government. They believe that gathering 10 or 15 people and shouting in front of someone's house will force a minister to resign. That kind of misguided mentality is now what remains in the opposition. We have taken charge of a bankrupt country, stabilized the economy, and are rebuilding it, providing relief to the people and restoring Sri Lanka's dignity in the eyes of the world. If opposition groups attempt to obstruct this process and try to bring back the old, dishonest style of politics, then those attempts must be defeated.
Arriving from the United States to the island of peace, the Mahasangha, who took part in a 7-day walk for peace, concluded their visit yesterday amid a warm reception. Venerable Panyakara Thera of Vietnam, along with the accompanying Venerable Theras, departed for the United States with the service K9 Aloka early this morning.
The group led by Venerable Panyakara Thera left the country at approximately 7:12 a.m. today from the Bandar Naik International Airport in Katunayaka. They are scheduled to reach the United States via Istanbul in Turkey. Meanwhile, following the state ceremony held to mark the conclusion of the peace walk, Venerable Panyakara Thera called on President Kumar Dissanayake at the Presidential Secretariat last night. The 7-day walk for peace in the island of peace concluded with a message of peace to the entire world. This is the island of peace.
A global walk for peace in the island of peace, Sri Lanka. Move forward, Sri Lanka.
Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says efforts to establish peace in the Middle East are still ongoing as talks between the U.S. and Iran seem to be at a standstill. Sharif said in a social media post that due to Pakistan's immense efforts, the ceasefire has been extended, which is still ongoing. However, U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened Iran to better get smart soon as efforts by Washington and Tehran to end hostilities appeared at a standstill.
U.S. President Donald Trump today said that Iran did not know how to sign a non-nuclear deal and better get smart soon in a post on social media. The U.S. leader posted on his Truth Social platform, quote, "Iran can't get their act together. They don't know how to sign a non-nuclear deal. They better get smart soon," unquote, alongside an illustration of Trump holding an assault rifle with the caption, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." Meanwhile, the president claimed that Iran had been militarily defeated by the U.S., speaking at a state dinner during a visit from Britain's King Charles III last night.
From the trenches of World War I to the beaches of Normandy, from the frozen hills of Korea to the scorching sands of North Africa and the Middle East. And we're doing a little Middle East work right now, two of you might know, and we're doing very well. We have militarily defeated that particular opponent, and we're never going to let that opponent ever, Charles agrees with me, even more than I do, we're never going to let that opponent have a nuclear weapon. They know that, and they've known it right now very powerfully. But our countries have stood together, defiant and triumphant against the forces of communism, fascism, and tyranny. Together we have expanded the reaches of human knowledge and endeavored always to make this world safer, more prosperous, more just, and more free. Ours is a treasured friendship, an eternal bond, and a true story of extraordinary heroism and skill, a lot of skill, tremendous skill.
US President Donald Trump, posting on Truth Social earlier, said that Iran has reportedly asked him to end the blockade of its ports, claiming Tehran told him the country was in a state of collapse. However, the Wall Street Journal reported that US President Donald Trump has instructed aides to prepare for an extended blockade of Iran. The report said that in recent meetings, Trump opted to continue squeezing Iran's economy and oil exports by preventing shipping to and from its ports, adding that he believed that his other options, including resuming bombing or walking away from the conflict, carried more risk than maintaining the blockade. Oil prices surge amidst ceasefire. Oil prices rose today, extending a multi-day rally on reports the US will extend its blockade of Iranian ports, likely prolonging supply disruptions from the key Middle East producing region. Trump will opt to continue to squeeze Iran's economy and oil exports by preventing shipping to and from its ports, the report confirmed. Brent crude futures for June rose 52 cents or 0.47% to $111.78 a barrel, climbing for an eighth day. The June contract expires on Thursday and the more active July contract was at $104.84, up 0.4%. Meanwhile, the UN Rights Office says at least 21 people have been executed and more than 4,000 arrested since the start of the war. The office said 9 of those were executed in relation to the January protests, 10 were for an alleged membership in opposition groups, and 2 were on espionage charges. UN Rights Chief Volker Turk said he was appalled by the executions and said that on top of the impacts of the conflict, the rights of the Iranian people continue to be stripped from them by the authorities in harsh and brutal ways. Situation with Iran's airspace. Passenger flights between Iran and China as well as between Iran and Russia have resumed after a 2-month suspension caused by what Tehran describes as the US-Israeli war of aggression against Iran. CGTN, a Chinese state media outlet, said passenger flights between Iran and China had resumed for the first time in 60 days. Mahan Air, Iran's largest airline, announced the resumption of selected China-Iran passenger routes, including services between Tehran and the major Chinese cities of Shanghai, Guangzhou and Beijing. Meanwhile, Russia's Sputnik news agency reported that the first Tehran-Moscow flight, along with its return service, resumed yesterday after the suspension. The flights had been halted following the launch of the US-Israeli war on Iran. According to Iran's press TV, China and Russia consistently supported Iran diplomatically throughout the war, condemning what Tehran described as US-Israeli aggression at the United Nations and calling for a negotiated end to the conflict. Iran resumed commercial flights from Tehran's international airport over the weekend for the first time since the war began. Flights to Istanbul, Muscat and Saudi Arabian city of Medina departed from Imam Khomeini International Airport on Saturday.
King Charles III and Queen Camilla continued their 4-day state visit to the US with a lavish state banquet, an aircraft flyover at the White House and a speech from the King to Congress. The trip, which comes as the US approaches the 250th anniversary of its independence from Britain, is aimed at celebrating the strong relationship between the two countries.
Mr. Speaker, Their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla.
Addressing the US Congress, Britain's King Charles told that despite an age of uncertainty and conflict in Europe and the Middle East, the UK and the US will always be staunch allies, united in defending democracy at a time of deep divisions between the two longtime allies over the war with Iran. King Charles stressed the value and importance of the indispensable UK and US partnership in a well-received speech to Congress in Washington, D.C. Speaking in the US Capitol, the King warned the two nations had to stand together in a more volatile, more dangerous era, and he delivered some hard truths about the need to back NATO.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you His Majesty Charles III.
The alliance that our two nations have built over the centuries, and for which we are profoundly grateful to the American people, is truly unique. And that alliance is part of what Henry Kissinger described as Kennedy's soaring vision of an Atlantic partnership based on twin pillars, Europe and America. That partnership, I believe, Mr. Speaker, is more important today than it has ever been. The first reigning British sovereign to set foot in America was my grandfather, King George VI. He visited in 1939 with my beloved grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. The forces of fascism in Europe were on the march, and sometime before the United States had joined us in the defense of freedom, our shared values prevailed. Today, we find ourselves in a new era, but those values remain. It is an era that is in many ways more volatile and more dangerous than the world to which my late mother spoke in this chamber in 1991. The challenges we face are too great for any one nation to bear alone. But in this unpredictable environment, our alliance cannot rest on past achievements or assume that foundational principles simply endure. As my Prime Minister said last month, ours is an indispensable partnership. We must not disregard everything that has sustained us for the last 80 years. Instead, we must build on it. Renewal today starts with security.
In a speech that Buckingham Palace said beforehand would not be political, Charles also made references to President Donald Trump's criticism of NATO, highlighted the importance of continued U.S. help for Ukraine in its war with Russia, the dangers of isolationism, and even a call for the safeguarding of nature, an important issue to the king for most of his life. Later in the evening, U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump welcomed King Charles and Queen Camilla to the White House. The state dinner honored the enduring relationship between the US and the UK, coinciding with Americans marking 250 years of independence. The dinner opened with a speech by the US President thanking the UK for the quote-unquote great gift of a rich inheritance, adding that most of Britain's former colonies do not know what they owe to it. He also stated that history has known no more powerful force than the combination of American patriotism and British pride.
History has known no more powerful force than the combination of American patriotism and British pride. The British Empire that began here in America certainly did not end here. The sons and daughters of the British Isles went on to found more countries and spread more civilization than any nation before. They built an English-speaking world upon which the sun never sets and provided an example to which free people will always turn, They have such love and such respect. Today, most of Britain's former colonies have no idea what they truly owe to this towering legacy of law, liberty, and British custom that they were given. We were given that, and it was a great gift. Tonight, on the eve of our 250th year of cherished independence, we turn to the sovereign embodiment of our British heritage and say sincerely thank you to our friends, the United Kingdom, for the richest inheritance that any nation has ever given to another. May our two countries stand together forever for liberty, for justice, and for the glory of God. Ladies and gentlemen, I offer a toast to 250 years of American freedom, and very importantly, to a great man, His Majesty, King Charles III.
Following U.S. President Donald Trump's speech, King Charles presented the president with a bell from the tower of the HMS Trump, a Royal Navy submarine first launched in 1944 that served in the Battle of the Pacific during World War II.
2.5 centuries ago, the United States of America was founded through an audacious and visionary act of self-determination. From the beginning, the American character has been defined by courage, tenacity, and the spirit of adventure. As the direct descendant of King George III, I know this is a nation that never gives up. This said, our French friends can feel equally at home with a glance at a map. Indeed, you recently commented, Mr. President, that if it were not for the United States, European countries would be speaking German. Dare I say that if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking French. Of course, we both love our French cousins greatly, and we three estates are not only bound by our shared values, but by a profound belief that together we are more than the sum of our parts. And at this time, when the search for peace in the world is more critical than ever, I can only turn to Shakespeare's genius to remind us of the plea for peace spoken by the Duke of Burgundy at the conclusion of Henry V. My speech entreats that I may know why gentle peace should not bless us with her former qualities. Thank you, Mr. President and Mrs. Trump, for your splendid dinner this evening, which, may I say, is a very considerable improvement on the Boston Tea Party.
The International Finance Corporation, a member of the World Bank Group, has announced a partnership to develop Sri Lanka's first utility-scale 100-megawatt solar power facility.
The landmark project is expected to accelerate Sri Lanka's energy transition, strengthen energy security, reduce electricity costs and create thousands of jobs. Once operational, the solar power plant will generate approximately 220 gigawatt-hours of clean electricity annually, supporting Sri Lanka's national target of sourcing 50 to 70% of its power mix from renewable energy by 2030. The project will also enhance grid reliability, lower electricity costs for consumers and generate more than 3,000 jobs, including skilled and semi-skilled employment opportunities that build capacity across the renewable energy and infrastructure sectors. To support the development, IFC is investing up to $18 million through a local currency loan. The financing is supported by IDA21 private sector window, local currency facility, and will be used to fund the solar power plant and related infrastructure. The investment will also enable future utility-scale battery storage and renewable energy projects, contributing to improved grid and stability. The project also complements Phase 1 of the World Bank's Secure, Affordable and Sustainable Energy Program, which includes a $30 million IDA credit to strengthen transmission infrastructure and institutional capacity for renewable energy integration.
One person was killed and 33 others injured after a bus fell into a ravine in Badalgala, Hatton.
According to police, the bus involved in the accident was travelling from Diagama to Hatton. Police stated that the accident occurred near Agarapatana, Hatton, when the ill-fated bus had moved to the side of the road to allow another bus to pass. At that moment, the earth under the bus had given way, resulting in the bus falling 30 feet down a ravine. The injured have been admitted to the Dikkoya Hospital in Hatton. Among the injured were 14 women, 17 men and 2 children. The deceased is a 70-year-old individual.
It has been 93 years since the death of Anagarika Dharmapala. A program to perform meritorious deeds in his honour was held this afternoon at the Agrashravaka Mahapodhi Mahavihara in Maradana. The event was organised under the guidance of Venerable Ambulugala Sumangala Thera and the President of the Sri Lanka Mahabodhi Association, the Chief Sanganayaka of Japan, Venerable Banagala Upatissa Thera. Born on the 17th of September 1864, Anagarika Dharmapala entered the monastic life under the name of Sri Devametta Dharmapala and passed away on this day in 1933 at the Mulagandhakuti Vihara in Isipatana, Dambadiva. Another program was held this morning at the Agrashavana Mahabodhi Vihara in Maradana. The event was attended by children from the Yoshida Shokanji Kindergarten.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.